and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural, metaphysical, paranormal. You know, all those things you've been wondering about? Are you ready to go deeper into the realms of the unknown? I hope you've got your walking shoes on, because life is an adventure, and this is the journey. Come on, let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. It's the Journey Radio Show, and I'm Jen Cruz, your host. And hey, we're showing up as the She Squatchers. I've got my trusty teammate, Jenna Grover. Hey, Jenna.
Well, howdy. I'm saying howdy, but I'm not even in Texas. I miss Texas terrible. Howdy, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well out there. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we did go out for Mexican today, and she was reminded of Texas. So
I was. It was delicious.
So we've got some special guests for us tonight. I'm hoping that they can hear us now. And they said that they can, so that's good. We were having trouble before the show. So I'm really excited to bring on Scot and Hannah Violette from Squatch America. Hey, are you there?
We're here.
Hi.
Can you hear us?
We can. We can.
Oh, that is a miracle.
Awesome.
It was literally like what, seconds? That you guys were signing in, right?
So what? Literally just walked in the door. I mean, like, our day was supposed to end at 6 p.m. tonight, and we just got in the house.
So
I was like, oh my gosh, so we're coming in hot.
All right. Good thing. You got some energy going on.
Awesome. Well,
And
I'm glad
coffee.
you could join
We have
us.
plenty of coffee.
I'm so glad that you could join us, and I've been excited all week waiting to talk to you guys again. And just a little bit of background on you guys. Can you give our listeners a little bit of background?
okay. Well, I am a anthropologist, and my expertise is in Native American culture. And I got into Bigfooting through Native American culture. It was probably about 25 years ago. I was always interested in it, because I was the little kid that saw the Patterson film in the theater, when I was like 7, and like, oh my gosh, Bigfoot exists, But I never, really got into it until I got into speaking with Native American elders and finding pictographs and petroglyphs in California for the first time. Did I really start to realize there's some history here, and that's what really got me into it. And my lovely bride got drug into this mix with me.
That's right. Drug like a cave woman.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear more. How did he get you interested?
Well, kind of by association, because I married him.
Oh,
And I had absolutely no idea. I'll just tell you this. I was very much a city girl whose idea of being out in nature was going to church summer camp. And so when we were courting and he asked me if I liked to go hiking, I said sure, because I thought it was walking the little pavement trails at the church summer camp. And he meant actually going out and hiking and climbing up cliff faces and things like that. So that was my introduction to nature type living. And over the years, I just did more and more with him. I think where I really started to kind of, I don't want to use the word believe, when I started seeing credence in this was when he put up his Facebook page to get reports, and all of a sudden the reports started pouring in. And that was what, and then when he came home one night and he had the picture on his phone of what he saw, I was like, oh, Oh,
Oh,
so
there may be something to this.
there
Yes.
may be something to this.
Can I ask you? You said you weren't ready to go out with him. You thought you were just going to take a quick hike. What was the outfit? Were you even prepared for a hike? He's smiling.
No, I actually have a interesting story about that.
Oh, good.
It was we were getting
Oh.
ready, preparing for our wedding, and I was planning the honeymoon.
We had $100 budget for the honeymoon.
Yeah,
Oh my
it was
goodness.
tough times. Anyway, no, so I was planning.
We were poor.
I was planning the honeymoon, and since she had mentioned to me she liked hiking, not realizing she didn't know anything about it, so we got married and we jumped in the car, and I had already had the backpacks packed in the trunk, and she didn't know what we were doing. And next thing I know, we're driving up in the mountains, and she's thinking a nice little lodge in the mountains somewhere. And we jump out, I throw the backpacks on, and we hike 2 miles into the woods.
Oh my. I'm sure at first you were all like, oh, this is so beautiful. Were you kind of angry but at the end? Like, I can't do this
No,
anymore.
because I have a real kind of a spiteful streak, and I was, it should have clued him in when I said, because he had asked me if I had any hiking boots, and I said no. And so the fact that we had to drive to Payless on our way there to get me a pair of $20 hiking boots should have given him a clue that
Yeah.
I had no idea what we were doing. But I really do have a spiteful streak, and I was going to show him up one way or the other. I didn't quite do that, but
You tried.
there are parts of the trip I don't remember. You should tell them why.
Let's hear it.
Oh yeah, we were hiking actually in the Blue Mountains, a very famous place for Bigfoot. We were probably 15 miles away from where the Freeman film was shot. So where we were hiking.
Your hiking was it's a pretty famous trail for that area. It's called the Elkhorn Crest Trail.
And it gets up to
About 10,000.
the 10,000 feet's the highest peak, but it's 7 to 10 when we were hiking.
It's like a goat trail on the side of a cliff.
Yeah. So so we ended up hiking this goat trail, and there's a part where the trail kind of went away from a slide, and it was just one of those narrow trails where you got a cliff on one side and a steep fall on the other. And
How
there's this-
deep? I mean, you're talking how? I'm trying to get a visual on
It was
how.
about 8,500 feet up.
Well, altitude wise, but the fall would have been
About 8,500 feet.
Yeah, she thought it was 8,500 feet. It was more like
Was
maybe
there life
300.
insurance in
And I
place?
was also very scared of heights then.
Yeah. So anyway, so we're roped off together. So I come up to this break in the trail, and I grabbed the tree above us and kind of swung under it and to the trail on the other side, and kept walking. And I was expecting her behind me to do the same thing, and all of a sudden the rope gets tight because she's just froze solid. And I'm like, she goes, I can't do this. And I go, yeah, you can. So she reached up, grabbed the tree, swung halfway under it, and just clung to it for her life. And she was not moving. She just froze up, locked up. Her brain went away, and she's just like, I'm not moving. That's it. Yeah.
It happens. Oh my goodness.
I don't remember actually getting to obviously I got to the other side. I cannot tell you how I did it. I have no memory. My next memory is tripping and spraining my ankle while we were still 10,000 feet up.
Oh no.
And
Yeah.
it's,
It was a wonderful trip.
Oh.
But-
It
And
was
we didn't
amazing.
even see any watches.
And did you guys get married before or after this trip? I'm just curious.
This was before. This was our honeymoon.
Oh,
This is
yeah,
our
that's
honeymoon
right.
night. Yeah.
Lucky that it wasn't before the wedding, because that might not have
there were
happened.
things I can tell you right now that did not happen on this honeymoon. though. I had my ankles stuck in a glacial lake most of the rest of the weekend.
Oh, I bet you were served though. He served you so much, right? I mean, he brought you things and
Yeah, he served me those Mountain House dehydrated meals on a paper plate.
they were so delicious.
I know.
In fact, we crave them now.
Yeah.
I did discover though that that's the quickest way. If you want to drop 15 pounds, go hiking for a weekend and eat those meals.
Yeah.
15 pounds, boom.
Wow. Jen?
No.
I need to lose a couple times over. So how many trails would that be?
You and I would be like, no.
Where's the ice cream?
Yeah. Actually, they do have dehydrated ice cream in those Mountain House.
Okay, how does it taste?
Like hard marshmallows, you know. But it's like, yeah,
So not ice cream.
yeah, it's not ice cream, but
And it's probably not cold.
no, it is not cold. Well, it depends on how cold the water you put in it is, but that's it. Yeah. So
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I'm surprised that she stayed married at that point.
Right?
What's the
oh, it's almost 25 years later. So
24 years in August.
yeah.
Wow.
Nice. Did he continue to take you up into situations like that?
Yes, we have. But she's got used to it now. She's got a lot better at it. So
Yeah, I still prefer the little more glamping, but I like getting out there. I'm a damn good camp cook. So, we both fulfill our purposes out in the bush.
Yeah.
And I keep him and whoever we have with us happy and well fed, and sometimes brave out in there. We did last summer. I have to brag on myself. Last summer,
Good for you.
we hiked almost to the top of Mount Katahdin, which is the summit of the Appalachian Trail.
it's the end of the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
Wow.
And let's see, it's like a 5,200-foot mountain, which doesn't sound all that challenging.
It's almost straight up.
It's deceptive because it literally is straight up. It's bouldering the whole way up the side of the freaking mountain. and there were parts of it I could scramble up a lot quicker than this guy.
Yeah.
I made it as far as the rebar rungs that went up the cliff face, and by the time I reached that, I said, I think I'm done. I mean, I made it past the tree line. I was like, and I saw those rungs, and the wind is whipping, and I'm going, nope, not happening. I'm just, summiting is not that important to me.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Life is good. I want to live it.
yes, I was above the tree line. I could see the whole valley, and close enough to top of the world for me.
That's beautiful. And I suppose you didn't get any pictures, or did you?
We did. We got lots. Yeah, we
got
shot some
lots.
video up there too. So yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Do you have it on your website? Because I would love to see some pictures
Well-
and videos from the top of the world up there on the mountaintop.
Okay, it will be soon on the website. I'll put it up.
Yay!
Yeah. So most of my stuff I just post straight to my Facebook page. So Hannah Burke of Violette, and you can follow our RV and Bigfoot adventures. That's the easiest way.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
So-
Awesome.
Mhm.
Well, being that I'm part Native American, of course, I'm going to be interested in learning as much as possible
Okay.
about the Bigfoot things that you learned through the Native connection.
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll jump right into my first experience with Native American Bigfoot, put it that way. Was I was working with the Miwok tribe from Yosemite Valley, California. And they're like in the central California area. And I was working with them they were trying to ratify a treaty with the United States that never got ratified way back when. Actually, they kind of got lumped in with the Paiutes, but they're not Paiutes. So they were trying to become their own entity, with their own treaty. So what we were doing was documenting the history of the tribe in Central California, like how long have they been there, and so we were doing a lot of searching for pictographs and petroglyphs from way back, when, and we discovered quite a few of them, older ones, and we were in a group of them that were somewhere probably between 1,000 to maybe 1,500 years old, and
Wow.
it was in an area where there was a lot of grinding holes where they used to grind acorns with stones in this area, and so I was looking at some of the petroglyphs, and some of them pretty standard, hunting parties, water this direction, a lot of the common ones that I knew. But there was one where they had this big, tall man on it, and I asked the elder, what is this? And he goes, "Oh, that's Bigfoot." Or he said, "Yaya Lee" is in their language, which translates to hairy man, and I looked at him and go, "They exist?" And he looked at me like I was stupid and said, "Yes." Kind of turned and walked away. And I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute, come back here." But so that was my first little venture into seeing something old, and I thought, well, maybe he misinterpreted it or whatever. So I started really looking into the phenomena of Bigfoot and Native American culture. And I started finding other tribes, other pictographs. There's a famous one in California, the Hairy Man one that's around Porterville. And that one wasn't too far from us, so we went and saw that. And it was similar to the one I found, in Yosemite, and about the same age. So I'm like, so this is a picture of Bigfoot well before there were cameras, well before there were white men in America. So there's got to be something to this. So that's when I started, being an anthropologist. We studied bones. I had to name every bone in the body, to pass a test. So I started looking into the foot morphology, and I got to talk with Dr. Jeff Meldrum a few times. Got to sit down with him, and he schooled me on the foot morphology and in anthropological terms. And I'm like, okay, so there's something actually to this. There's scientific evidence here. So that's when it quit being a belief to me to more of a fact. I started looking into the morphology, and I said, there's actual evidence here that I can see with my eyes. So that's when we got into researching histories and Native American stories from, way back when. And we got to speak with a lot of different tribes. In fact, I think to date, I'm up to 175 different tribes that we have talked to.
Impressive.
And, yeah,
Impressive.
yeah. And we've got the names from some of the tribes don't have names for them, but we got some of the names. And what's really interesting, I've found in our research, is half the tribes, it's almost 50%. I think it's like, really close, like 48 to 52 or something like that. Half the tribes in the United States, the names for these things are elder brother, spirit guide, stuff like that, something very nurturing or helpful to the tribe. And the other half are Wendigo, cannibal, monster, demon. So it's like half the tribes look at these creatures as something scary, and the other half looks as something benevolent, which that really was something I wasn't expecting, in our research. But the Miwok tribe in California, they're benevolent. They think of them as an elder brother. That's the tribe I spent the most time with, so that's the one I got the most stories for. And they have a lot of interesting stories about Bigfoot, helping children get well, that were sick, they would take it. There's historical stories with the Miwok where a Bigfoot would take a sick child away and then bring it back healthy. Or there's another kind of interesting phenomenon that the Miwok have. They have a legend that says wherever Bigfoot goes, a light follows, like an orb follows Bigfoot. That's a legend from going back thousands of years.
Did they
I
say
thought you-
why?
No, they didn't, because it's a spirit being to them.
Okay. The Bigfoot is a spirit being.
The Bigfoot is a spirit being.
Like
But-
an angel or something.
Well, not quite an angel. It's more of a, so I don't know, kind of a benevolent being that can step into the spirit world and step back into our world.
It's so
And-
interesting. Go ahead.
No, I said it, and it's similar to stories we still hear today. People say Bigfoot just vanished in front of me and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just so interesting though. I've never heard, I mean, you've obviously done some fabulous research, and wow, that's a lot of tribes to be speaking with. I am just kind of shocked by how many of those, like there's such a small margin between the percentages you said on them being something good and true versus them being something you should fear.
Right.
I'm surprised at that.
Are the majority of the fearful ones in the South?
Yes, actually, they are. They are in the South.
Makes sense.
Florida, Texas, Louisiana,
Some of the Shoshone. North.
Arkansas, and some of the Shoshone actually in Utah area. I did speak with a Shoshone elder one day. I spent the whole day with him almost. And
That's a great story.
what's that? Go ahead.
That Shoshone elder.
Yeah. He told me to quit looking for them.
Yep.
There's nothing but trouble I would find.
And this is after Scott had spent the day lecturing on his encounter with Bigfoot and what he was doing in his research. And after the conference, this elder came up to him and said, "It's time for you to stop." Because because he said, "I've noticed with you, Bigfoot has taken your soul." yeah,
He told me. And he said, because I'm so
Wrapped up.
obsessed.
wrapped up in it, he said, Bigfoot has captured my soul.
Wow.
Gives me a little whew.
Yeah, it's a very powerful statement.
Yes.
But if you think about that, I mean, think about how many other things have stolen our souls. Televisions, things like
Yeah.
that. Video games, food. That's my downfall. I
Yeah.
love food.
Cell phones.
Cell phones. Yes.
Yeah.
I try to leave mine away from me as much as possible, but you're always on call.
Yeah.
Jen is constantly texting me. I can't get
I'm
any
constantly
sleep.
calling.
She just wants to see my face. She's like, "What do you look like today, Jen?" Shut up. I'm
What
just
I
teasing.
find what I
Yeah.
find super interesting, Bigfoot. Yeah, Bigfoot kind of, while taking his soul or whatever, it's also Bigfoot has afforded us an incredible opportunity to travel around and make connections. But this elder said that it would wind up destroying everything that he was working for,
Mhm.
and that it would come to ruin. Now it hasn't come to ruin, but it wasn't a few months after that when everything shut down.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
thanks a lot, guys.
It's like, well, all the conferences last year went kaput. And it's like, oh, okay, whatever.
Were
Not
you
that
kind of
there's-
worried about it? Like, oh my gosh, did we do this? I mean, even
Yeah, I know.
but did it come to your mind like, oh,
Yeah.
It's kind of humorous in a weird sort of way, but it forced us to change our direction, our research direction, and that I think is a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Because before probably before that, and actually a little bit before that, I was, like most Bigfooters start out, they're going, I'm going to prove this thing's real. I'm going to get a picture. I'm going to, I'm going to get DNA. I'm going to get hair. I'm going to do something. I'm going to prove this thing,
I'm going to get a body on a table.
Yeah, or whatever,
And we are not those kind of people. By the way, we are not pro body on the table.
No. So, at first that was my direction, as almost like everybody. But over time, and especially, I could tell you the story of actually coming face to face with the Bigfoot, in my life. So, and that was due to the fact of me starting a website and starting my Facebook page and starting getting stories from people. I took everybody's story, and still do take everybody's story that I get seriously. And to me, being, a scientist per se, I even switched my name from anthropologist to cryptozoologist, by the way. But anyway, so, but looking at it in an analytical point of view, like I would as an anthropologist, I started using the stories I got as data points, as putting them in an algorithm, saying, okay, this is. So when I started getting stories, I put dates and times and locations on maps, and I started tracking the Bigfoot movements in the Blue Mountains of Oregon with stories. So I knew what time of year they were where, just by, and then some of it got a little confusing because I'm thinking, well, maybe they're really in this area in the spring and this area in the fall. But then I got to thinking, well, in the fall, there's hunters in the woods. In the spring, there's up in Oregon, there's mushroomers that pick the morel mushrooms. And so are there more people in the woods that time? So are they actually more Bigfoot, or are there just more people seeing the same Bigfoot, sort of thing. So some of the data got a little messed up. But anyway, but by putting those pins in the maps, I almost worked out a migration pattern with them. So I was able to stay ahead of them when I knew where they were going to be, what time of year. So I started hitting the right areas where I thought they were going to be, and that's how I got to see one for the first time.
Wow.
And the last time.
So
I'm gonna pause you right there because we're at the halfway mark of the show. We have to go to our 2-minute commercial break. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back. All right, so we are on commercial break, and we can't hear the commercial, but it's 2 minutes, and we have to kind of keep an eye on the clock for that because we have to listen for Sarge. If we're talking, we can't hear him. So tell us that we're back on the air. So we're good for right now. Everything that happens right now is being recorded on video and will be on YouTube later.
Okay.
That's I warn people. Yeah, you're doing great. I can't believe it's half over already.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. All right. Cool beans.
Oh, she's muted.
Yeah, she's muting. Awesome. I forgot to take some of my pills. It's like Jeopardy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Come on. If I can find the right ones. Thank you, Sarge.
Yeah, you guys are doing great. I was saying that earlier, but you couldn't hear me.
Oh, thanks.
Jenna likes to talk when she's muted.
Go.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Hey, this is the Journey Radio Show, and we are the She Squatchers. Won't you check us on online at shesquatchers.com? And on that page, you can click on events and see all of the comings and goings that we have scheduled. But just a quick run-of-the-mill run-by, we're going to be in Virginia in the end of June at the ECBRO Virginia Bigfoot Conference. Then, the beginning of July, we're going to be at the Duluth, Minnesota at the Minnesota Para-Unity Convention. The following weekend we'll be at the Michigan Bigfoot Conference. And the following weekend we'll be at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. In October we'll be in Toppenish, Washington at the Yakima Valley Bigfoot Con. So we got lots of stuff going on. Come out and see us if you're nearby, or even if you're not, come see us.
Yes, please. We love meeting you. So, I mean, don't be worried about coming up and saying hi. I mean, I'm sure you guys are the same way. It's like you love people. People come and they want to meet you, and you want to meet them, and you want to hear their stories. And nobody should be bashful or shy. If you see us alone, come on up.
Yes.
Tell us your stories.
A couple years ago, we were in Washington State, and some people came up to us to introduce themselves because they wanted to meet us, and they lived in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I'm like, I live in Minnesota. You didn't have to come to Washington. But I thought that was pretty cool.
We might be in that area at that time.
We might.
I'm from Yakima.
She's from Yakima.
Are you really?
Yakima, Washington.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, I just found out recently that the house I grew up in.
Oh yeah, this is crazy.
The house I grew up in was across the street from
Roger Patterson's house. She grew up across the street, and she didn't know who he was.
Well, he didn't live there when I was growing up, because he had long since, I think he'd already even passed by then. But because I grew up there in the 80s. I don't, anyway, but yeah, I reconnected with someone in, like one of those Facebook groups for your hometown, and we were chatting about where we grew up. He says, well, that guy, Roger Patterson, he was a really good bucking bronco rodeo guy, and he did that Bigfoot thing, and he lived right there across from your house. What?
Wow, what a small world.
I know. It's freaky. It is so freaky. And I had so I had no idea who any of them were until I met Scott.
Yeah.
I had no idea. None.
So it was like hiking.
Bigfoot.
Yeah. No, I knew about, Lancome makeup counters.
I knew quite a bit about that too. Still do.
Yes.
I love makeup.
But
She does love
anyway,
makeup.
I think before the break we were talking about, I had mentioned that Shoshone elder said, it's time for you to stop because this is going to lead to ruin. And actually, when everything came crashing down for us last year and all the Bigfoot conferences were canceled, and it's like, what do we do? It really changed the focus of our research from proving
that's
Bigfoot.
where I was going.
That's where he was going, and I knew he was going to need to get rooted back in that direction. It took us from researching for the sake of proving Bigfoot's existence, because to assuming that we've so now our new baseline is Bigfoot exists. Bigfoot is, for our purposes, a biological entity on this planet, like elk and moose and bear and alligators and baby monitors and whatever. And so those stories, yes, if people have a story, now instead of using stories to track where do we go to find them, we're using stories to create sociocultural behavioral narrative. Who is Bigfoot? How does Bigfoot behave? How do they live? That sort of
What's
thing.
their family structure? What their food sources are?
So,
And we can gather that from just stories. And if I can go back into, clear back into the Native American history and the Native American stories and compare them to these stories today, we can actually make a cultural narrative for Bigfoot. And I'm currently, for the last 2 years, I've been working on a book to create the cultural narrative from the Native American standpoint of Bigfoot. So it's going to be a little bit longer to finish that, but
I would
wanna
love
see
to
that.
read that. Yeah, me too. I'm like, oh, man.
well, see, now you made it public, and now you're going to have to finish it.
I know.
Now he did it.
Rush,
Yeah.
but we'll take the first few chapters. We'll check it out for you.
Okay.
I think that's great that it pretty much put you through into a different direction, but I'm reverting back to when you saw Bigfoot. When you started realizing that the way they were traveling in the migration patterns, are you starting at this point to make contact and get some kind of a trust going there where you're somewhat emotionally communicating with Bigfoot, like a trust? Is there anything that's happening there between you?
No, I to be honest, no. I was more like tracking them like a tracker, trying to
Gotcha.
figure out where they were at. What had really happened is I had got on our website, I had got 3 reports of a Bigfoot in a certain area from 3 different people that didn't know each other in the same week.
Oh.
So that was like ding, ding, ding. They're right there, So,
Yeah.
so we hit that area pretty hard. And to tell the story, how it went, I had a guy, and this is kind of funny too. There was a friend of Hannah's. Her dad was really into Bigfoot, and it was his birthday, right? Yeah. And she said, "Hey, can you take him out with you, to go Bigfooting? Because it would be really cool for him to go Bigfooting with you." And
On his birthday.
on his birthday. And I'm like, well, I was headed out anyway because I was going to that area. So yeah, sure, I'll bring him along with me. And so he and I'd never met him until the moment he got in the car and or my truck, and we headed up the mountains together, So we're hiking down this trail and we get this smell, this really bad smell. And I'm like, okay, I know what, I've never smelled that before, but I know what it is because, I've got a million stories of this.
Mm-hmm.
So we stopped and we scanned into the trees. We couldn't see anything. It was starting to get dark. So I said, well, it was raining a little bit. So I was going, okay, let's go further down the trail and see if it follows us. Because I was hoping if this smell stayed with us, it was following us. And we're on a muddy trail. So I'm hoping footprints, So we start walking and the smell goes away. So I'm like, oh, it's not following us. So we turned around and went back. The smell came back and then it growled at us, kind of a, and I think it was actually trying to get us to look at it. So we stopped. We started looking around. I still couldn't see it because it was about 200 feet down a pretty steep hillside behind this clump of trees, and there was this little opening in the trees, and there was this face looking at me through that opening. Actually, you could see the whole face. It was pretty big. But I still didn't see it, so I kind of growled back at it. I went, "Roo!" Back, and then it went, "Roo!" Back at me, and that's when I saw it. And it was standing in the trees, bobbing its head side to side, like it was sizing me up,
Were you a little nervous after
A little
it
bit.
answered?
It was, yeah. It was quite a ways away though, so I'm desperately trying to take as many blurry photos as I could of it, and
He forgot to turn off autofocus.
autofocus was focusing on the trees in front of it, not through the hole behind it, and I'm grabbing the lens, and I'm hearing the gears pop in it because I'm trying to hold the focus and not turning it off. I was just shaking too,
Oh,
but
I bet you were so excited. Just
yeah, I was. So we were,
Now the companion with him was not as excited as he was trying not to pee himself.
yeah.
Yeah, who was it? You were you with him on this one, or was it?
I was not.
No, she was not.
This
Just
happened.
me and this.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
This happened in the middle of the night, and I was at home tucked in bed
Yeah.
with my feather
Oh,
pillow on one
So,
side and the dog on the other.
so yeah,
perfect.
yeah. So anyway, this thing was still looking at us. We probably had eye contact with it for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 seconds. It wasn't very long, maybe 10 seconds. And then we hear this whistle off in the woods further up the hill from us. And the creature turned towards the whistle and walked up that direction. We sat there for probably 2 or 3 hours after that, and nothing else ever happened. So after coming home the next morning, as soon as the sun was up, we were back in that spot, and I climbed down off the hill and into where it was standing, and we found three 15-inch footprints with three 9-inch footprints next to them.
Wow.
So the one I saw after shooting lasers through trees from where I was standing, from where my camera was, because I had the photos to go by, and where it was standing, I went down and stood where it was and trying to figure out exactly where. We determined that the one I was looking at was only 6 feet tall. So I think that was Junior, that was a teenager probably. And the whistle we heard was probably mom or dad that said, hey, leave the people alone,
But you said there was two sets of footprints, one larger than the other. So do you think
Yeah.
that maybe there were siblings, or?
No, well, I think that was the one that whistled was the other footprint. I think that was either mom or dad that was with it.
Oh, okay.
So I never saw the other one, but it was further down the canyon. So it had already walked away and probably turned around and saw, oh, hey, Junior, leave him alone, and whistled and it turned and walked. So yeah, we did get a cast of the
juvenile
the juvenile footprint and showed it to Dr. Meldum. He thought it was authentic, so which was good.
And you said it was mud?
Yeah, kind of.
So
Yeah, it was spring.
How did you? Can you kind of tell us how you did the track?
How we cast it?
Yeah,
It was
how you
pretty
did the
challenging.
It was a little challenging because, like I said, it was on a very steep hillside.
That's
So I was able to put a dam up around it with cardboard around the side of it, and then where it was steep like this, we actually made the plaster a little thicker than I usually would, so it wouldn't fall out. But the whole time we were casting it, I kept trying wiping it up to keep it up in the hill until it got solid. So it was a little tricky casting on it, an angle, but we did get the cast out of it. So.
And what did you use to cast it?
Just plaster Paris
Okay.
at that time. That's the only thing I could find in our local hardware store. I'm like,
I suppose. And you were gonna say what?
I
Oh,
don't know.
sorry,
I
I
lost
put you
it.
on the spot.
No, but that was kind of fun. I mean, I still have that cast with me today. We take it to all our conferences and stuff with us, and another great thing, it was only 15 miles from where the Freeman film was shot back in the 90s. So the same area.
Exciting.
Yeah.
That is exciting.
Isn't it nice getting out there? You become part of nature and you just feel alive. It's a different feeling to be away from the universe, the inside.
What our listeners don't know is that they used to live full time in an RV traveling around the country, which I think is
Yes, you could not have, when we got married almost a quarter century ago, gosh, we are old.
Yeah.
if you had suggested to me that I would have walked away from career, and because I was a performing artist, I was a musician and teacher, performer, and and I've been an educator, and if you had told me that I was going to walk away from all that to basically camp full time.
That's what it is. So funny.
Yeah, and that I would walk away from those Lancome makeup counters and wear camo instead. Oh.
Yeah, but
She's having memories like,
She's having-
oh.
I am
Oh.
like, I think I would have thought you were absolutely insane.
yeah,
And but you're right. I mean, when you finally make that connection with the planet and the energy of the planet, and it's like, oh, it's like you connect with life.
Yeah.
You finally
Mhm.
connect with life.
Yeah.
And I kind of rather like that.
yeah, and we're still connecting with people. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Well, what's really great about what we're doing now is traveling the country.
Mm-hmm.
It is like over the winter we spent time in Texas, Louisiana,
Arizona.
Alabama, Arizona, Nevada. Actually, we stopped at Area 51.
I got a great alien hat.
Yeah, so
Oh, I didn't see that. I mean, I saw it, but I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I wore it because of your show. I thought I got to wear my alien hat for the girls.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So-
That's awesome.
But the neat thing is we're Squatch America. We have logos all over the side of our truck. It says Bigfoot Research Team on it and a whole bunch of stuff. And I do that
On purpose.
on purpose, not to brag or anything. It's to get people interested.
It's free advertising.
Well, not just the free advertising. The thing is, I
Right.
cannot stop at a gas station. I cannot stop at a grocery store. Until somebody will walk up to the truck and they go, "Are you for real? Are you a Bigfoot hunter?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." And they'll talk with me for a while to kind of fill me out to see if I'm legit, and then is when they say, "Well, back in 19 whatever,
And the
we were up-
stories come.
yeah, and it happens all the time. I mean, almost every day I get stories. We had a guy when we were in where was that? South Carolina? No, it was in
Oh, we were in
Anderson.
Tawakin,
in Anderson,
Anderson. Oh, yeah.
Um,
We were in Anderson, South Carolina.
South Carolina.
And
Yeah,
we stopped at this random gas station because we were almost sucking fumes, and he's gassing up the truck, and this guy is driving by. He goes through the light, flips a U-ey, and like peels into the gas station
yeah,
Oh,
because he saw our truck.
because he saw the truck, and he came up and introduced himself and asked us, the typical questions. Do you really believe in Bigfoot? Are you really here looking for Bigfoot? And I'm like, yes, I am. And he goes, well, back in, and tells me his story. And I got his information from him. I give him my card and stuff. And what was really hilarious is that we got a message on Facebook the next day from his wife, was it?
From his wife.
And I guess his daughter had been watching our YouTube channel forever, and she was like, and he didn't know that when he met us, And so I said, hey, and
She begged us. She says, "Is there any way
Right.
we can bring our daughter to meet you?"
and I said,
Oh, of
okay,
course.
fantastic, no problem, And we set up a time to go meet with them, and they go, where do you want to meet? And I said, hey, he told me a Bigfoot story, and it was in town, almost at the edge of the town that we were in. And can we meet you at that gas station and you take me to where you saw the Bigfoot? And so that's where we met them at the gas station. Then we drove out
And we went
just-
out with the whole family, and he was able to walk us to the very
The spot.
spot that he had his encounter.
and explain
And
everything that
explained
happened.
the whole story. We took pictures. We got his narrative on audio, and that's. I mean, we love to do that.
Well, I have to ask, how old was the daughter though? Was she young, or was she
She's
older?
like 16.
16.
Oh, so she knew what she was doing. Like she was a
Yeah.
mega fan.
Yeah.
Hey, mega fan.
Yeah, her name is Tiffany.
Hey, Tiffany.
Yeah. So, yeah, her brother wasn't so in.
The older or
Yeah, he was a little bit of a non-believer.
well, he was kind of too cool for words.
Yeah, but
That's
but
funny.
but it's kind of neat to get those stories and be able to go out with the people and I kind of really love the fact that when I see people's eyes light up when they say, "Oh, there's somebody I can tell my story to that's not going to look at me sideways," and
Yes.
and to get out in the woods with these people
With
and
real people.
with real people and I can hear the quiver in the voice when they talk about what they saw and it really hits home with me saying, yeah, I know I've had that experience. I know how it makes you feel and you can tell the legit ones,
People
right.
who've
pretty
had
easy.
a real encounter, it's life-changing.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
It really
so-
is.
I have a question in the chat room that's been waiting there, and
Okay.
Sherry is wondering, have you heard any stories about tribes living with Bigfoot?
Yes. Several actually. There's an Ojibwa legend. It's one of Hannah's favorites that we run across. This was kind of an interesting story. The Ojibwa tribe, used to actually trade with Bigfoot on a common basis as just another tribe. They were tribe to tribe. And the story goes that when the white man showed up, the Ojibwa tribe told Bigfoot they wanted to trade with the white man too. The Bigfoot said that no, they did not want to trade with the white man, that it would only lead to bad things. And they said to the Ojibwa tribe, if you trade with them, we will go to the mountains and never be seen again. The Ojibwa tribe traded with the white man.
And
so Bigfoot
Wow.
went to the mountains, never to be seen again. Isn't that an interesting story, how they're so elusive today?
Yes.
So
and there's another story. I think. Give me a minute. Is it Inuit or Tlingit?
Tlingit.
There's a Tlingit story from the north of Canada into that Alaska area.
The Yukon area.
Yeah. There's a story of a Native woman up there whose tribe was starving. Not drought, but so cold.
Yeah.
And she said, basically, I'm done. I'm going to go live with Bigfoot. They'll take care of me. And 15 years later, she returned to the tribe after having lived with them Bigfoot for 15 years. And so to hear her story, we've got that on video somewhere. To hear her story, it's just jaw dropping. Absolutely jaw dropping, because you can't make that stuff up. I mean you can hear it, you can see it on their faces and hear it in their voices, and they're recounting lived experience.
Yes.
And as wacky as it sounds to the uninitiated, that's the only, the unexperienced, you can't make it up. You can't, those autonomic bodily responses as they're reliving it, you can't make that stuff up. So
you're right.
So I don't know if you know this, but when I first was in Washington a couple years ago, a Native gentleman approached me. I didn't know who he was, and he asked if I would remote view for him. So I did, and I told him what I needed. I needed to look at a location on a phone or with GPS map, like Google Earth, satellite imagery. And so he opened up a location and handed me his phone. And I started looking at it, and I'd tell him what I would see there, and he'd take his phone back and pull up a different location, and I'd look at it and tell him what I saw there. And this went on for a while. He didn't give me a whole lot of feedback, but there was one location that I saw a native man, a native woman, and a Bigfoot, and they were standing so close together that their arms were touching. And it was the man, the woman, the Bigfoot. So the Bigfoot was actually touching the woman, and they were all smiling. And I was like, okay, the native people are wearing old clothes, like we're talking 1800s here, like long time ago. And I think they were together here. They definitely traded goods. They were friendly. They weren't scared because the woman is them in the middle. I'm like, they're not afraid. They're friendly. And it was a few weeks later, he and I were talking then on Facebook Messenger, and he said, that spot where you saw them together? And I said, yeah. He said, that was actually, it's all just woods now, but he said that actually is the location that our tribe had a settlement back in the 1850s, in the mid 1800s. And our tribe lived with Bigfoots in our village.
Wow.
Oh.
And he said, and that's the spot that you identified. That is where it was. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I love feedback,
Yeah.
That just makes all the hair on the back of my neck stand.
Yeah. And so that was the Yakima Reservation.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
And and so that's why we're going up there for their Bigfoot conference. That's their first one, and they're actually focusing on our remote viewing. So we'll be remote viewing for people there, and talking about those things.
We should look into that and meet you guys there.
That would be awesome.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
We can give hugs.
Yeah.
And I just looked at the time. We have like 1 minute left. I got to give you guys a chance to tell everybody where to find you and contact you and all that fun stuff.
Okay. All right. Yes. So we have a website called squatchamerica.com. Yep. And you can submit your reports there, and please do.
And you can contact us right there.
You can contact us directly there through email if you'd like.
We're on Facebook under Squatch America.
Yep, and we have a YouTube channel
under Squatch America.
Under Squatch America YouTube channel, and we do a live every Thursday night, and we have different
at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Yes, and then if you've got stories and stuff, and please let us know, and we might track you down.
Last week, I tell you what, if anyone wants to hear. We had a super interesting episode last week. We had our show last week. We featured Dr. Christopher Hansen from Anderson University, and he's a vocal professor, and he analyzed all sorts of Bigfoot vocalizations for us.
That's really cool.
From
a choir teacher's
perspective.
Nice.
And so, that's just kind of an example of people, but we also get, people who've had encounters with other Bigfoot researchers.
Yeah,
so.
And the week before that, you had the She Squatchers.
You did.
That was pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome. Yeah.
Well,
and we're in Maine right now, but we're going to work our way back across the United States in the fall.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Good night.
Bye. Good night, everybody. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.